Hello and welcome. Another edition, a unique edition. I guess we should call this the premiere of Tyler Beatty joining the Beatty Baseball podcast. But first things first, today we are joined by SEC coach, uh, college, elite college coach, University of Texas Longhorns, Jim Schlossnagle. First and foremost, Jim, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Yeah, honored to be on. Love what you do. We've done this before, but it's always great to see you, Walter. But my man Tyler, man, so great to see him. Such great memories from our experience together on the USA team, and watching him grow and evolve, not just on the baseball field, but away from it as well. So, uh, gonna have a great time with this. Just great to see you guys.
I'm excited because obviously I speak a lot in reference to going through the college experience with my son Tyler. And I think, Ty, I really want to take the time to say thank you for joining us today on your initial podcast. Actually, this would be your second, but your first within the College Coaches Corner segment. So welcome aboard, Captain.
This is exciting. Yeah, I made sure to sport the Longhorns gear today. Big fan of Schloss. Obviously, going on almost 10 years now since we were together with Team USA. And again, I'll echo what he said. I love what you're doing for college baseball, for youth and high school baseball, for parents, players, and coaches. And so, yeah, honored to be a part of this. Thanks, Walt.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. I deeply appreciate that. And Jim, I'm going to start with you. You and I have had many discussions over the last couple of years, and where I would like to start is, for me as a student athlete, when dinosaurs roamed the earth, there was Cliff Gustafson, and then next in line, when you have Augie Garrido. Texas baseball matters not only in Austin or Texas, but all over the country. They really are an iconic, what I call foundation college baseball program. What has it been like as you've been, kind of getting your team prepared during the fall? What has it been like to be around the University of Texas campus?
Yeah, it's been pretty amazing, and I want to start off by saying every place I've worked has been awesome. So anything that I would say about Texas is, I don't want that to come off as demeaning to, TCU, A&M, UNLV, any place I've been a head coach. But certainly the standard at the University of Texas is, and the success here, not just in baseball, but, across the board. I always tell people the most intimidating thing to do as a baseball coach at the University of Texas is a head coaches meeting. When you walk in and the football coach was in the playoff last year, the volleyball coaches won the last two national titles, rowing 2 national titles. I think with the exception of men's basketball, and we just added beach volleyball, the University of Texas has won a national championship, at least one in every single sport. So the level of excellence here over the course of many decades is just proven out, and so no one has to tell you what the standard is. And then from a baseball standpoint, nobody's been to the College World Series more than Texas 38 times. I think the next closest school is 25. They've won 6 national titles, but it's been 20 years. And there's a mural to my left here on the wall of Coach Dish, Coach Falk, Coach Gustafson, and Coach Garrido, and they stare at me every day. And so I think I'm the 6th coach in about the last 100 years. So that's an honor. But at the same time, times in college baseball have changed since 20 years ago, even since 5 years ago, even, which I know we're going to talk about. And so Texas has been one of those programs like USC, Arizona State, Stanford, Miami when Coach Frazier was there. That was just super succeeding on a very, very high level. They had a lot of resources. They were committing a lot of resources. And luckily for college baseball, there's a lot of programs like that now. And Texas is now moving into the SEC, which is a completely different animal, as we all know, as Tyler experienced at Vanderbilt. So it's an exciting time. The standard's high, but the waters are very deep. So we have a lot of work to do.
One of the things that I would love for you to discuss is, I go back talking with Rick Scott, and I really enjoyed his insight. You know, you had just left, I had moved down to Louisiana, was spending time with Rick, and he always talked about your interactions with your student athletes. And as you alluded to earlier, you spent time with Tyler with Team USA. And I'm always fascinated by the relationships after the athletic career is done and how they continue and carry on. And I know that whether it's UNLV, TCU, Texas A&M, Tulane, can you talk about the rapport and the relationship that is developed by college coaches that, you know, span a lifetime?
Yeah, I mean, I just think the beauty of college, right? And no disrespect to professional baseball, but you know, when you're in college, you have 18, 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old guys that are going through 18, 19, 20 and 21-year-old guy things. And ultimately, our job is character and leadership development through the sport of baseball. And Tyler certainly got that at Vanderbilt. We've tried to instill that in the programs, you know, that I've been a part of. And we have bad days and I make mistakes too, just like everybody else does. But at the end of the day, you know, most of these guys, if they play in the major leagues, it's not going to be an extended period of time. So you're trying to help and guide them become the very best version of themselves in all areas of their life, which is the mission statement of our program. And so, you know, the best days are, you know, when I get a text from a former player that says, "Coach, I'm getting married. Can you be there? Coach, I just had my first child," you know, that kind of thing. And so, you know, sometimes, especially this past summer, you know, I changed schools and that was a whole thing. And people get emotional and get upset about that. And that's okay. You know, I understand, you know, we're trying to run a business on somebody else's passion. But at the same time, you know, those relationships are long and deep, and specifically with Tyler and the USA guys, it's so enjoyable as a college coach when you get to coach a USA team, because it's really the closest thing to professional baseball that you get as a college coach, because there isn't recruiting. There's just playing games and traveling and spending time together on a bus or at dinner or on a plane, you know, to Japan, long flights, and then coming back and playing Cuba and having all those experiences. And so, yeah, my relationships with the players is what I value the most about my profession. And certainly, you know, the USA team, even though it was only a couple months, you know, it's great to still have those. I cherish those deeply.
I didn't sleep a lick on those flights from Japan or back. I don't know about you, but I remember that was funny. We missed July 4th. We flew on July 3rd and then got to Japan on July 5th. We completely missed the 4th of July that year. No, I appreciate you bringing up character development. And it really was, even in that short period of time, there was, and you emphasized it, right, by bringing in Brian Kane at that point, for some of those intangibles for those guys to have an additional resource in addition to you and Bianco and guys of that nature on the coaching staff. And, you know, touch on it a little bit. Obviously, it's something that I've seen that's very evident from the teams that you coach, or those guys have another gear mentally. You guys prioritize team identity and things like routine and time management. Talk about like an evaluation from an evaluation standpoint for either, you know, the high school guys that you're deciding to bring onto campus. How much value do you place on a player coming into your program with sort of an already strong foundation on some of those, you know, mental performance principles? How much value do you kind of see when it comes to the evaluation process for that?
Oh yeah, to me, it's the most important thing, along with the weight room, right? If I was to speak to a young person today, which I know watch this podcast, or parents, the two things you can do to get a head start on the competition are, number one, develop defined routines and habits of excellence, whatever that means to you. A consistent routine in the morning, a consistent routine throughout the day, a consistent, what we call PM routine before you go to bed. And, you know, you can make that whatever you want it to be, as long as it's consistent, and it allows you to be the most successful version of yourself. And I tell our players, you're never going to see consistency on the field until you're consistent away from the field. So at the foundation of any development that we do here, number one is the mental game of baseball, which includes helping young people develop really significant, consistent routines and habits. And number 2 is the weight room. And those are the 2 things that if you want to get a jump start, especially in today's college baseball, that's going to give you the best. Are they going to allow, for example, a pitcher that gets hurt maybe in his senior year or in the summer, and maybe has Tommy John and he's going to be out for the year? Is that player, currently the rule is that player is allowed to be on our roster, but he doesn't count toward the roster limit if he's out for the year. Are they going to allow that? If they allow that, that's awesome. If they don't allow it, then a college coach is going to be put in a predicament of, do I take the player and now I can only take 33 players on the team, or do I have to have a really tough conversation with somebody and find them somewhere else to play for 1 year? And so none of that is college coaches don't enjoy any of this. But we have to, we can only play by the rules that we're given, and the pressure or the standard to win is what it is. And so you try and make the best decision you can for both parties, whether it be the program or the family incoming. And those are some really tough decisions, and they're tough conversations.
Yeah. This next question that I want to get into deals with, in a lot of ways, the landscape of the game of baseball when it pertains to sort of injury prevention, right? There's so much talk around guys, getting hurt these days, especially at the higher levels in professional baseball, making it a little bit too common. And I know Corb's always valued the guy from the Northeast who, quote unquote, had maybe a more fresh arm because he wasn't maybe overused in high school. He played multiple sports and had the ability to kind of come onto campus, again, not being overused. I want to kind of touch on how much you look for, and maybe this is something even in the transfer portal where you look for a guy who's coming from a school who maybe he didn't throw a ton of innings, but is a high impact arm, or even the guy who's already on campus, and how you guys potentially monitor workload. I guess speak to how much you value kind of injury prevention techniques and a fresh arm from that context, so that you can have a guy obviously healthy, keep him, retain him for all 3 years, and have him throwing high quality innings when it comes time to pitch in Omaha. He's fresh, he's ready to go, and he's strong.
Yeah, that's a huge question with a lot of different answers. Let me start off with the best ability is availability, right? That's the best ability. And so we've always operated from that standpoint. And I would say the second thing is injuries happen.
They're going to happen. There's an extremely high percentage of pitchers in the major leagues who have at least already had one Tommy John surgery. And so you can do everything. If there was some Bible for pitching health, we could follow every single commandment. If there were 10 commandments, we could follow them all, and someone's still going to get hurt. And so, but what we can do is try and control the things we can control and try and give them the best chance. And what we do might necessarily not be something that somebody else does, for example. So for instance, for us, we never take a pitcher. We only have a pitcher throw once a week in the fall, and they throw never more than 2 innings. We try to get our fall practice over with, right? And next year, this is going to be completely different. If we only have 34 players, and let's say if we were going to do a roster construction of saying 18, I hate the word pitcher only, but if we were going to use that phrase of maybe 18 pitchers, and then maybe you have some two-way guys and that kind of thing. Well, what does fall practice look like? You can't risk, in my opinion, risk too much of the fall. You have to balance development of the player versus having them available in the spring, because there's no AAA. If somebody gets hurt, you can't call somebody up. And so for us, if you're at the University of Texas, it's all about having the player available for the springtime. And so we'll look at each individual's situation. What's their body like? We do a full body assessment as soon as they get here. Are they even ready to pitch? We had a pitcher at A&M last year by the name of Weston Moss, super talented, but we took him through a movement screen and testing, and he was throwing 96 miles an hour, but the doctors and the PTs were telling us he's a ticking time bomb. You cannot throw him. And we didn't. And he was really mad about it. But in the spring, he pitched through the entire season and was a huge part of our College World Series run for the Aggies. And so you would look at each individual player. How physical are they? What was their summer like? But it's all about being ready for the spring. And so we don't send that many players off to pitch summer baseball anymore. The guys that pitch in summer baseball for us in college are guys that maybe didn't pitch in the springtime much, and they need some development time on the mound. But at the end of the day, we would much rather have our hands on them, have them in the weight room, have them with our trainer, our physical therapist. I wish, and we are going to push for this, by the way, basketball is allowed to have instruction in the summer with your coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And more and more college players are staying on campus these days, so they can A, graduate sooner, B, be around the weight room. And so if our players are on campus with some restriction, maybe 4 hours a week or something like that, we should be able to work with them, even just monitor their throwing or getting ready for the fall. And so, but on the flip side, you have some teams. I saw LSU just played, 3 7-inning games, yesterday in November. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Coach Johnson certainly has, he coached at Arizona. He and I have talked. He likes his fall practice at the end of the fall, and then maybe they just kind of roll into the season, and that works for them. And so, so I think each individual school is going to do what they want to do. But for me, I'm such a believer in the weight room and having your best players available. We try to get our fall practice out of the way early, although it's hot in Austin, that time of year. But we try to get it over with. So then if you do have somebody with a little nick or knack, then they have time to come back for the season, and we can spend a lot of time on their body.
Yeah, that's really good. I appreciate that. And so then this last thing to finish up on that topic. And so for a high school kid, does a college coach, did they care about like a larger sample size of evidence? So I saw him play in the fall, the spring, and the summer. Because he has a larger track record, I'm able to see obviously his skill set. Or is it like, hey, I'm able to see him for a quality, healthy spring, a little bit in the summer. If he shuts it down in the fall or doesn't have a long extended summer, that's okay, because I'm able to see, at least in shorter bursts, what his skill level is, how he can compete at a higher level.
Yeah, I'm way more on. I'm just like, for a lot of reasons. Not as many players do that these days because they are able to play all over the country. The kid in Massachusetts now, he's playing fall games in the South, stuff, or even at home. But for us, especially, let's say a player commits to us in his junior year, 2026 class, then we would like to be able to work with their high school coach, work with the summer coach, and say, hey, what's your total volume of innings going to be, or what's that look like between your spring season and your summer season? I don't care what anybody says. No one's getting drafted off their summer performance. If you have a rough summer and you have an awesome spring, the Yankees are still going to want you. If you have a great summer and you have a terrible spring, they're probably not going to want you. And so, for us, it's more about, the light at the end of the tunnel is pitching at the University of Texas. How can we best have you ready to go? If you decide the draft is a detour on that, then that's your personal decision. And then if the Yankees draft you, then they can take over that. But I would just really encourage, especially pitchers, that if the very best players in the world have off seasons, then certainly a 15 to 17-year-old can have an off season as well. And we give our players an off season. We're right in the middle of it right now. I mean, when I say off, I mean, they're in the weight room. They're doing things to prepare their body, but they're not pitching.
Jim, this is my last question, at least from my perspective, and I'd be remiss if I didn't ask this with T. Beatty joining us today. With the roster cuts or limitations, what is there a renewed focus now on a potential two-way player? I mean, somebody that might be an elite arm, but he can really swing it, run bases, things like that. I mean, is this somebody now that you have to give serious consideration to, even though he might be an elite arm, that this could be a two-way guy? I mean, Brooks, University of Texas alum. I think it was Kieschneck. Those types of guys, they're out there, but for the last 20 or so years, they really haven't been as prominent. Do you think now they come under the microscope a little bit more intensely?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think on a broader scale, versatility in general, at least for us, when we're thinking about roster construction, let's say you have 3 catchers on a team. Well, only 2 of those 3 catchers, in my opinion, can be guys that can only catch, right? The third guy needs to be super versatile, or maybe the second guy needs to be super versatile. All of your infielders, you want your infielders to be able to play shortstop and move off that big lumbering, super strong first baseman only type player. If you take one, he better really hit, right?
Because West Ray.
Yeah, Luke and Baker for us at TCU.
Yeah.
Luckily, Ivan Melendez here at Texas, who won a Golden Spikes. You better really hit if you're going to rely on the toughest thing of all of sports to get you on the field, man. You better be really good at it. So I would answer that question first of all that way, where you better be versatile. But in terms of the two-way player, yeah, for sure. Even if the guy is, let's say he's a primary position player, even if he can just give us a couple innings in every 2 weeks to get through a weekend type thing, I think that's going to have value, which goes back to availability and how you keep them healthy. Unfortunately, what I don't want to see in college baseball is what we now see a lot in the major leagues is you see a blowout, and you see, you see my guy Brian Holiday, who played for me at TCU and played in the major leagues for a long time. And I think he had 5 or 6 pitching appearances, and he's flipping it up there. It's, 75 miles an hour. And I think that takes away from the product of what we're trying to do. But that's going to happen because you seriously only have so many bodies, and 18 sounds like a lot, but once you have your certain percentage that get hurt, and some guys that maybe aren't just ready to pitch at this level, and that would be another statement is don't just say you want to play in the SEC. You better be ready because you're actually going to. If you're on that roster, I don't see how you'd go through a season, and not play.
Well, I want to first and foremost I'm thrilled that you were able to take the time to join us today. I'm thrilled that Tyler was able to participate in his first Coach's Corner. Ty, you got any closing remarks for Coach Slosh or?
No, I'm just super appreciative of being able to be a part of this today. That's such incredible information, advice, guidance for players to be able to hear, parents to be able to hear, even coaches as well. It's you've had such a great impact on the game of baseball at such a high level. And so, appreciative of you sharing some of that knowledge with us today.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler. Just like we're talking about relationships, man. I value those relationships so much, and
I'm 54 years old now, and we had that summer together, and it's so cool to watch you or to watch Kyle Schwarber, or certainly Trey Turner and Bregman and Conforto and shoot.
Yeah, keep going. That team is unbelievable.
Rodon, Luke.
Yeah, I'm watching the World Series and Rodon starting a game, and Luke Weaver, one of the greatest dudes, man. So funny and so fun to be around. Great teammate, and just getting to look at those guys and look at my friends or my children and say, you remember when we were traveling the world with Carlos and Tyler and Luke, and so this is an honor, and I'm so proud of you, buddy, and I'm always here to help you in any way.
Appreciate that. That means a ton.
Yep.
Same here.
Well, parents, we learned an awful lot today. I think it's been tremendously beneficial, as always, to hear from Coach Schlossnagle, and I encourage you, share your comments, hit that like button. Obviously, we'd love for you to subscribe. I think this is something we're going to see a little bit more of Tyler over the upcoming months with regard to the various podcasts. But, Coach, best of luck to you this upcoming season. We look forward to visiting with you down in Austin. I truly appreciate you taking the time today to join us.
You got it. You guys are welcome anytime. Hook 'em.